Hi, everybody. This is Kara. Before we start today's episode, I wanted to just drop in and wish to every single member of our Ivy Tech family the most happy of Thanksgivings. I hope you are all enjoying some wonderful downtime with your family and friends and enjoying this holiday that is all about gratitude. I am grateful to each and every one of you for how hard you work every single day. And you are the reason that I love this place that we work and love the work that we do together. And I am so grateful for each and every one of you. I also wanted to remind you that we have an important opportunity as we turn our attention to this week's episode, which is about wraparound services, that we all have the opportunity to do just a little bit more to support some of our campus efforts on Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday is a global day of giving that celebrated the Tuesday following Thanksgiving, and thousands of not-for-profits raise money for their organizations this day. And Ivy Tech is going to be participating again for the third year. What's great about this year's Giving Tuesday is we have two incredible Ivy Tech donors who have come forward with a $100,000 matching gift opportunity for that day. Each of our 18 campuses have a specific project they are raising money towards, and I know several of them will be directed towards their wraparound service efforts. All of the donations that are given towards any of those 18 special projects on December 3rd will be matched dollar for dollar until the $100,000 has been reached. So you have the opportunity to turn your $5 into 10, or 10 into 20, or 50 into 100. So be on the lookout as you come back to work on Monday for more information at your campus about your local project and about this great matching gift opportunity. I hope you will join me December 3rd and double the impact of your donation. And now on to today's episode. Welcome to Our College Your Voices. I'm your host, Kara Monroe. On today's episode, we're going to learn a little bit more about wraparound services. We've talked about wraparound services in some previous episodes, and it's essentially Ivy Tech's name and approach for services that students need that go beyond the walls of the classroom and traditional academic services, things like transportation, housing, food, childcare, all of those sorts of services that our students need in order to remove those barriers that they may be facing as they try to go to class and earn their credentials here at Ivy Tech. So we have three folks here who are joining me on the podcast today to talk about our approach to wraparound services, and I'm going to have them each introduce themselves. First up is Cassie Ziegler from Columbus. Hi, Cassie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great.
Good. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do at the Columbus campus?
I am what they call the community resource liaison. So I work closely among the agencies of the United Way, and I help give resources for the four focuses, which are transportation, emergency funding, food, and mental health. But also I see a lot of housing as well. That's a big one on Columbus's campus. And I sit in the commons area so that I'm visible, and I sit out pamphlets, which I think during the time periods are needed the most. So like right now, food insecurity ones are sitting on my desk. So if I'm not there, somebody can pick something up.
Excellent. Very good. It's good to have you, Cassie. And you're also a student here at Ivy Tech as well.
I am.
And a Student Government Association president.
I am.
You were just on a recent episode if folks have listened to that. So next up is Deshawn Burrell. Hi, Deshawn.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm awesome.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you do at Ivy Tech?
All right. I am the director of the Student Resource Center. That pretty much is the space for all things non-academic. So crisis intervention, any behavioral issues that occur in the classroom that would result in a Maxine report being submitted. Those students tend to make it to my office. Students that are unprepared for a class make it to my office. So the first couple of days of each 8-week session, I'm a revolving door, and I help students with several different things: food insecurity, books and supplies for their classes so that they're prepared. We work on housing. We have some housing partnerships. And then we have 4 signature events that we host out of our office every year.
Excellent. And Deshawn, you're on the Sellersburg campus.
I am on the Sellersburg campus.
Okay. And I think it's important before we introduce Kat to say just here at the top that wraparound services does look really different on every campus. There are those 4 needs that Cassie mentioned that every campus does definitely target. But then because every one of the communities that we serve is so different, wraparound services have to be offered in a community-specific way. So next up is Kat Stremecki. Hi, Kat.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm great.
Good. And among the many other things we've heard about you this month with Student Leadership Academy and SGA President's Council and Student Life and all the other things you do, You also are now working with Wraparound Services. Can you talk a little bit more about that role?
I am. So not only, like you said, do I get to work with the student life directors, as of July of this past year, I get to work with the Wraparound Services folks across the state, which has been awesome because a lot of my background in student life has been working with service learning and that type of stuff. So working in the community and seeing needs from a community perspective. So it's been really cool to learn more about it from our campus's perspective. And so we're just really starting to bring that team together. We came together for the first time in September, and we'll come together again in December. And, one of the things on our list of things to do is to name Wraparound Services, because we've got a couple of campuses who call it something else,
right?
Which are actually really great names that they have, and maybe the name that we call it statewide. But, we know that the term Wraparound Services may not mean much to our students as to what we're offering. Right. So we want to start providing some clarity with that too.
Good. So while we're in the process of naming it, we're also learning about it. So can you talk about, and I think Kat, you'll kick this off, what is Wraparound Services and how did we get started doing this statewide?
Yeah. So what is interesting is as a statewide effort, where this came from was actually from an SGA President's Council legacy project. So if you have listened to or will get to listen to the SGA podcast, they, as part of what they do throughout the year is after they finish their feedback project, they select a legacy project, and it's meant to be something that can impact all Ivy Tech students across the state. And they've done a lot of different things with that related to like textbooks and academic advising and student life funding and that type of stuff. But their project in, I believe it was 2017, was having some sort of common wraparound services at each of our campuses. And so they use some of our campuses actually as models, because we did have some campuses who were providing some of these services. I get a lot of questions from folks about why these 4 areas in particular. And actually, if you go back to the original President's Council document, it's because these were the 4 areas that the students asked for. So Cassie mentioned them earlier, but I'll mention them again. And they are transportation, food insecurity, mental health, and emergency funds. And so what actually ended up happening was that legacy project came about right around the time that we started building our new strategic plan. And so it became Goal 1 Strategy 1 of the strategic plan. So a huge emphasis has been placed on this and the importance of it within our college. We've got all of our campuses doing these 4 areas, but we do have a lot of campuses like Deshawn's campus who are doing this plus many other things, like Cassie mentioned too, with housing. We're seeing a lot of folks who have added housing into that as well.
Deshawn and Cassie, in your intros, you both talked a little bit about what this looks like on your campus, but can you dig a little bit deeper into how Wraparound Services sort of support students on your campuses?
I'll start with the initial 4 pillars. So we look at transportation. One of the things that I champion out of my office is advocating for those services and those products that actually will benefit our students. So we have a TARC stop on our campus. There is a challenge for students who may have classes in the evening, as it has a final stop that's around 5:50. We have students that get out at 8 o'clock. So one of the things that we're working on, and I've been working on for a couple of years now, is just trying to make the right connections to increase or extend an existing route that will extend the time that students can utilize the bus, either back over the bridge to Louisville or around Southern Indiana. As it relates to our mental health, we got an on-campus contract with Heart to Heart Wellness Center. It's an amazing opportunity for a very established mental health center that focus on not just counseling, but they have other yoga and meditation and other coping skills products out of that center. They have an office in our suite and offer free unlimited services for students. So it started out with just 5 free sessions, but it expanded over the course of the next contract to offer free services, unlimited services for our students, which is a big win for our students as they navigate the different challenges of life. And when we look at the food insecurity, we have what's called the Ivy Exchange. And we call it the Exchange because students, and I'm sure Cassie can agree, anyone else who works with the Wraparound, students have a lot of pride and they a lot of times don't want to ask. and we always have to have a very welcoming environment. So a lot of students want to offer their time or offer something in exchange for going in and getting something. So we named it the exchange, meeting the needs of the student. They want to exchange, we'll call it the exchange. So we expanded non-perishables and dry goods into household items. We have a campaign now called the Green Box, and it is a project that's been worked on by one of my interns called the Period Poverty. And so we're just bringing to light the choices that some women have to make every month in exchange for things that are basic, like gas and food and and groceries, things of that nature. So we're providing free feminine products as well out of the exchange, and emergency funding. So emergency funding changed a little bit on Sellersburg campus this year, as I'm the primary driver and primary administrator. So I do a lot of realistic conversations with students about the budgeting of their refund checks that they get, and how they can use other community resources to assist in paying down a utility bill and not using part of their refund if they get into a hard space. And so by having those conversations, it has created a list for me to go out and find other resources so we can help students reallocate those funds so that in a true emergency, they can get the emergency funds to actually handle something versus coming up short when they've spent the refund check on something that's been non-academic, but it was needed to be paid for.
I'll start with transportation on the Columbus campus. The bus route is pretty good. My job, that when people come to see me about transportation, it's mainly just giving them the bus schedule and showing them all the routes, making sure every path is highlighted so that they know which one to get on all the time. For food insecurity, I have met with the people of the Love Chapel, which is the food bank, and there is at least one hot meal in Columbus served every day of the week. I have a schedule of that placed on my desk and all around campus so that that's visible to students that might need it. I also have been working with the SLA as a member of the SLA to create Ivy's Food for Thought, which is a food shelf and hygiene shelf. We don't have room on campus to have a pantry, but a shelf can do some help. And so we are starting that up. For emergency funding, the SGA has their own separate emergency fund, which we sell discount cards for, as well as different events here and there. Like at our masquerade that we're having on this Friday, we are going to have a silent auction and all the proceedings go to the emergency fund. And then there's a separate one, which is through foundations, which is where most people will go to. It's not very known, but that way the monies can stay in there for when somebody needs them the most. And typically we'll guide students to the SGA one. As well as for mental health, we do a partnership with Centerstone, and our students get the 5 free sessions. We keep the cards in the bathroom. I post things everywhere. And like I said, when in the wintertime is when mental health seems to be declining the most, that's when my resources change to more mental health resources on my desk. And so a lot of people, like Deshawn said, they're too prideful to come to me as one of their peers. As being a student, they don't want to. And so having those resources there that they can come by and grab on their own, you can see them dwindling. And I think that is great, as well as the kickstart of Ivy Assist and knowing that they can take their own resources into their own hands and on their own time. I think that's really great for them.
Good. Well, that's a perfect segue to the next question, which is to talk a little bit about what Ivy Assist is and how it works.
Ivy Assist is a pair with Aunt Bertha. I have had the pleasure of working on it since about March, inputting my own resources that I had, as well as reaching out to our site campuses and getting those resources to really ensure that our students will have all the resources at their fingertips. I started out with inputting at least 75 resources, and it's grown and grown and grown since then. And the link to it is posted everywhere around the school, mainly in bathrooms, since that's everyone uses the bathroom. And I think it's great that it got onto the My Ivy page so quickly, and you can see based on our reports that we get that students are actually using it, and I think that's great.
second to everything that Cassie said. Sellersburg was one of the pilot campuses as well. So I had early dealings with Aunt Bertha team and thusly being coined Ivy Assist. Now I'm working with some journalists and getting some testimonials of students and their utilization of Ivy Assist, as well as their thoughts and their feelings on the services and the Student Resource Center on the Sellersburg campus. They are actually going to be coming to our campus in about a week and a half to do a video interview with me, and they're going to be highlighting our Thanks for Giving week, and that's one of the signature events we have, which is it's a little bit different than handing out a Thanksgiving basket or a traditional Thanksgiving basket. We had some students who said, hey, even though I may be in need, I may still want to have the feel of going shopping. And I will oblige anyone who wants to go shopping during the Thanksgiving season at the grocery store. So we turn a part of our suite into a mini grocery store, and we call it the Thanks for Giving store. So they're going to be there filming the setup and prep of that, and then potentially, with the consent of any of the students who may be participating, they may talk to them about what that service has meant to them.
That's fantastic. Very good. And in addition to Ivy Assist being the website on flyers on your campuses, it's in My Ivy. It's also in the mobile app. If you click the 3 lines at the top left of the mobile app, it's in the menu there. So that's another place folks can find the link to it. So I taught a class first 8 weeks this term. We're teaching one second 8 weeks now. There's a team of us who are here who do an IVYT class together. And I am just always blown away by the challenges that students come to me with. I think for me in that first 8 weeks class, realizing while we don't have housing, and you've both talked about housing as one of our top 4, I think it's sort of this silent problem that students are, and you've used the word prideful, Deshawn, and both of you actually have. And that's true. It's hard to talk about not having a home or not having a secure place to sleep. But if a student comes to me with a challenge, what should I do? What's my best resource?
I think I can answer that. Honestly, for any faculty or staff member, it is Ivy Assist. You just type in your zip code and you have the way to send it by email to a student, as well as save it in case they come back to you and they want your specific help and your direct help. You can save that for them to use. You can print out the information, and honestly, sending them to your on-campus resource that you have could help too. But if you have the opportunity, use Ivy Assist as your first line of defense.
I'll second that. And then I'll add to it. One of the things when we do, I do IVYT presentations, so I kind of share with students about Ivy Assist, the Student Resource Center, all of the various things that they can access from our office. One of the key things that we're working on now is making sure that if there's a follow-up to be done, so obviously offer Ivy Assist, bring them to the person on your campus who would direct all wraparound services, but always make sure that there is a telephone number and an email that they will check. Every student, unfortunately, does not check their Ivy Tech email, or they just check it for things that are related to academia. They may not check that it may be coming from someone that's not their instructor. Another thing is when we have students that sometimes come in crisis, and crisis looks very different for everyone. If there's need to do a follow-up, if we need to do a wellness check, if the student happens to get off campus before they get to the person to talk to on campus, it's really hard to do that wellness check if we don't have an accurate number. And that's a new practice that we're putting out on Sellersburg campus, and we'll share now that I'm on the podcast. Just those 2 things are key in making sure that we can get back to that student in the event that someone is dealing with another student, dealing with another crisis, or may be out of the office at that particular time. So I would say, yes, most certainly use Ivy Assist. I always tell our students, if you use it, still contact me, because I may have a single point of contact, because sometimes navigating some of those websites and things of that nature may be a little difficult. And if they're already feeling overwhelmed or anxious, or they've had to go through several case management protocols, sometimes just being able to say, okay, you called X, Y, and Z agency. You know what? I have that person's direct telephone number. Let me try and reach out to them directly and see if they can pull up your application or if they can give you more information. A lot of time that can definitely cut the anxiety and can put the student at ease.
We've mentioned a couple of times about your wraparound services lead on your campus. And we realize that you may not know who that is because many of our campuses have just in the last couple of months officially appointed somebody to that role. So I would say your best place to start, if you're unsure of who that person is, would be your Vice Chancellor of Student Success. At most of our campuses across the state, they are the ones who have launched wraparound at their campuses. And so if it's not them, for about 5 or 6 of our campuses, it actually is the Vice Chancellor of Student Success. But if it's not them, they certainly know who the person is on their campus that they can direct you to.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for talking about this. It is something that I, as I think about my 20 years at the college, we've talked about it for a long time. It's so good to see us having people that we have invested in on campuses to make sure that students are cared for, and then to also see all the programs and services. And I think we will be shortly announcing an exciting new transportation program that will come to light quite shortly. So I'm excited to talk about that as well. That may be a benefit to some of our students too. So summarize our call to action well, which is if you don't know who your wraparound services person is on your campus, make sure that you contact your Vice Chancellor for Student Success and learn who that person is. Go chat with them, see the space where they work on campus, learn a little bit more about what they do. And again, remember, this looks a little different on every campus, so you might want to learn some of those specifics. And for faculty, if you want to add that link to Ivy Assist into your syllabus, I think that's a great idea for you as well if you're interested to do so. So please take those actions. Thanks again to everybody for listening to this episode of Our College, Your Voices. I want to thank the members of our panel today, Deshawn Burrell from Sellersburg, Cassie Ziegler from Columbus, and Kat Stromecki. This ends Kat's producing duties for the month. I'm really sad to see you go, Kat, but you'll be back.
I'm totally adding that new title to my resume.
I'm your host, Kara Monroe. You can connect with me on Twitter at @KADMTweets. You can reach us by email at ourcollegeyourvoices@ivytech.edu. You can leave us a voicemail too at 317-572-5049. That's a great way to talk about maybe how wraparound services has been able to impact you and your students. We'd love to hear from you. Our website is ivytech.edu/podcast. Production assistance for this and every episode provided by Becky Campbell, Sarah Ferguson, and the Ivy Tech Community College marketing team. And our podcast concept is by Matthew Pittman. Don't forget, you can join us in our Microsoft Teams listener community. Just if you're an Ivy Tech faculty and staff member, just go into Teams, click on the Join a Team button, and then our listener community is out there. Theme music, recording, and post-production services provided by the amazing Jen Eads at the Brassy Broadcasting Company, and we will talk to you next time on Our College, Your Voices.